The desperate signal, the twin moons of Ethros, cast silver light across the crystal spires of New Harmony, the capital city of the Zeltharian Republic. In the communications tower that reached toward the stars, Zara Veltar worked late into the night cycle, her luminescent skin glowing softly in the dim light of her laboratory. The Zeltharians had achieved what most species could only dream of, a perfect society built on art, science, and absolute peace. For 3,000 years, the Zeltharians had known no war, no violence, no conflict beyond scholarly debates about poetry and quantum mechanics. Their ships explored the galaxy not as conquerors but as students, seeking knowledge and beauty in the vast cosmos. Zara herself was proof of their success, a brilliant scientist who had never held a weapon, never seen violence, never imagined that such things might one day come to her peaceful world. But tonight, everything would change. The Deep Space Monitoring Array began screaming warnings that shattered the quiet of Zara's laboratory. Her six-fingered hands danced across holographic controls as massive shapes appeared on her sensors, moving through space toward their system. At first, she thought it might be a malfunction. The readings showed hundreds of vessels, each one massive beyond anything the Zeltharians had ever built. As the data processed, Zara's heart sank with growing horror. These were not exploration ships or scientific vessels. Every line of their design spoke of destruction. Angular hulls bristling with weapons, engines built for speed rather than efficiency, and energy signatures that made her skin crawl with their aggressive intensity. The Dracari conquest fleet had found them. Zara's hands trembled as she opened. Communication channels to every Zeltharian colony, outpost, and settlement across their peaceful republic. Her voice, usually melodic and calm, cracked with fear as she delivered the warning that would end their age of peace forever. This is Central Communications to all Zeltharian worlds, she broadcast. We have detected an approaching military fleet of unknown origin. All civilians are advised to prepare emergency evacuation procedures. This is not a drill. The response was immediate chaos. Zeltharian leaders who had spent centuries debating art and philosophy suddenly faced the reality of war. Emergency. Sessions convened across their worlds, but what could they decide? They had no military, no weapons, no experience with conflict of any kind. Their most advanced ships were designed for scientific research, not battle. Within hours, long-range sensors confirmed Zara's worst fears. The approaching fleet belonged to the Dracari Empire, a civilization that had carved a path of destruction across the galaxy for millennia. World after world had fallen to their relentless advance. Some surrendered immediately, becoming slave colonies. Others tried to resist and were simply annihilated. The Zeltharian High Council gathered in emergency session, their usual chambers of debate now transformed into a war room they never thought they would need. Elder Thane Velma, the eldest among them, spoke with the weight of 3 centuries of wisdom. We have perhaps 6 months before they reach our core worlds, he said, his ancient voice heavy with sorrow. Our evacuation fleets can save, perhaps, 10% of our population. The rest, he didn't need to finish. Everyone understood. There must be another way, insisted Counselor Neera Selton, her youthful optimism still intact despite the crisis. Other species have survived attacks. We could call for help. Elder Velma shook his head sadly. Child, no one fights the Dracari Empire. They are too strong, too numerous. Those who have survived did so by surrender and slavery, not resistance. But Zara, listening from her communications station, had been monitoring signals from across the galaxy. In the past months, she had detected something unusual: transmissions from a previously unknown species calling themselves humans, broadcasting from a world they called Earth on the galaxy's outer rim. "Wait," Zara interrupted, her voice cutting through the Council's despair. "There is one possibility we haven't considered." She activated her holographic display, showing the signal patterns she had been studying. "These transmissions come from a species that describes itself as originating from what they call a death world, a planet so dangerous that survival itself required becoming warriors." The Council listened with growing interest as Zara explained her findings. The human signals suggested a young but aggressive species that had unified their dangerous homeworld through conflict and had recently begun expanding to the stars. Their transmissions spoke of military strength, technological innovation, and something the Zeltharians had never possessed: a willingness to fight impossible odds. "They may be our only hope," Zara concluded. "If we can reach them, if we can convince them to help us, they might be willing to stand against the Drakari where others will not." The debate that followed lasted through the night cycle, but in the end, desperation made the choice for them. With trembling hands, Zara began composing humanity's first message from an alien species, a desperate plea for help from strangers who had never met, asking them to risk their lives for a people they had never heard of. Meanwhile, millions of light-years away on Earth's moon, Commander Cale Reeves sat in the deep space monitoring station that represented humanity's ears to the cosmos. At 45, Cale was one of Earth's most experienced xenotechnology specialists, a man who had spent his career hoping for this moment while secretly fearing it might never come. The signal arrived at 0347 hours, Earth Standard Time, and it changed everything. Unlike the random noise of space or the simple patterns of natural phenomena, this transmission was clearly artificial, clearly intelligent, and clearly desperate. Cale's hands shook as he began the complex process of decoding what was obviously humanity's first message from another intelligent species. It took him 18 hours of continuous work to crack the mathematical foundations of the alien language, using prime numbers and universal constants as the key. When the translation finally appeared on his screen, Cale stared at it in stunned silence before reaching for his secure communication line. "This is Lunar Station 7 requesting immediate priority connection to Earth Defense Command," he said, his voice barely steady. "I need to speak with Admiral Chen immediately." "Sir, we have first contact, and they're asking for military assistance." Within 6 hours, the message had reached the highest levels of Earth's government and military command. In a secure briefing room beneath the Rockies, Admiral Sarah Chen studied the translated plea with the eye of a veteran warrior who had spent 30 years defending humanity's expanding frontier. At 52, Admiral Chen commanded respect throughout Earth's military. She had fought pirates in the asteroid belt, rebels on Mars, and corporate raiders throughout the outer colonies. But this was different. This was humanity's first contact with alien life, and it was coming in the form of a desperate cry for help. "The situation is clear," she told the assembled leaders of Earth's High Command. "A peaceful species called the Zeltharians is facing extinction from something called the Drakari Empire. They're asking for military aid." General Morrison, the head of Earth's Marine Corps, leaned forward. "What do we know about these Drakari?" "According to the Zeltharian data, they're a conquest empire that has destroyed over 300 worlds. They use overwhelming force and brutal tactics. They've never been successfully resisted." "And the Zeltharians themselves?" asked President Walsh. Admiral Chen activated a holographic display showing the data Zara had included with her message. Completely pacifist. No military, no weapons, no experience with warfare. They're essentially asking us to fight a war they can't fight themselves. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. This would be humanity's first interstellar war, against an enemy they knew nothing about, to save people they had never met. "Ma'am," asked Captain Torres, one of Chun's most trusted commanders, "what's our strategic assessment?" Admiral Chen studied the star charts, showing the location of the Zeltharian Republic and the approaching Drakari fleet. "Tactically, it's a nightmare. We'd be fighting far from home, against superior numbers, with no retreat possible." She paused, looking around the room at the faces of Earth's military leadership. "But strategically, it's exactly the kind of fight that humanity specializes in." President Walsh raised an eyebrow. "Explain." "The Drakari have never faced resistance because they've never encountered a death world species. They fight civilized wars against civilized enemies, but humans." Admiral Chen smiled grimly. "We fight survival wars. We're the species that survived ice ages, plagues, and global conflicts. We turned our entire planet into a training ground for warriors." The debate continued for hours, but Admiral Chen already knew what the decision would be. This was what humanity had been preparing for without knowing it, the moment when Earth's children would step onto the galactic stage and show the universe what Death World warriors could do. 3 days later, Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UES Determination, watching as humanity's first interstellar battle fleet prepared for departure. 50 of Earth's most advanced warships, carrying 15,000 of the planet's finest warriors, engineers, and scientists. As the fleet entered hyperspace, beginning the long journey to the Ethros system, Admiral Chen thought about the message they had sent back to the Zeltharians. It had been simple: "Hold on, Earth is coming." None of them knew that this mission would change the galaxy forever, or that the Drakari Empire was about to learn why species from Death Worlds were never to be underestimated. The Iron Tide arrives. The human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Ethros system, like a pack of predators emerging from the darkness. Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Determination, her weathered face hard as stone as she surveyed the tactical display. What she saw there made even her veteran heart skip a beat. The Drakari had arrived first. "Admiral, sensors are picking up massive energy discharges from the inner system," reported Lieutenant Commander Torres from the tactical station. "The Drakari fleet is bombarding the Zeltharian homeworld." Through the main view screen, Admiral Chen could see the blue-green jewel of Ethros Prime under attack. Massive Drakari warships hung in orbit like metal vultures, their weapons systems painting the planet's surface with destructive fire. The beautiful crystal cities that had taken millennia to build were being reduced to rubble in hours. "How many Drakari ships?" Chen asked, though she suspected she wouldn't like the answer. "Sensors show 96 heavy cruisers, 47 battleships, and over 200 support vessels," Torres replied. "Admiral, they outnumber us almost 7-1. Captain Marcus Torres, the Admiral's aide and no relation to the tactical officer, stepped forward. "Orders, ma'am." Admiral Chen studied the tactical display with the calculating mind of a warrior who had never lost a battle she couldn't win. The Drakari fleet was impressive. Each ship was larger than anything in the human fleet, bristling with weapons that could probably cut through human shields like paper. But size wasn't everything, and humans had learned long ago that the biggest predator wasn't always the smartest. "Get me a communication channel to the Zeltharian planet," she ordered. "Let's see if anyone down there is still alive to talk to." The reply came quickly, transmitted from a hidden bunker beneath the capital city. Zara Veltar's voice, stressed but determined, filled the bridge of the human flagship. "Human fleet, this is Zara Veltar of the Zeltharian Republic. Thank the stars you came. But you must be careful. The Drakari have already begun their bombardment. Our cities are falling and our people are dying." Admiral Chen activated the reply channel. "This is Admiral Chen of the Earth Defense Force. We're here to help, but I need tactical information." "What can you tell us about Drakari combat capabilities?" "They're using standard conquest doctrine," Zara replied, her voice crackling through the static of the bombardment. "Overwhelming firepower, intimidation tactics, and numerical superiority. They've never varied their approach because it's always worked." Dr. Elena Vasquez, the fleet's xenobiologist and first contact specialist, moved to Chen's side. "Admiral, I'm reading massive life sign fluctuations on the planet. The Zeltharians are dying by the thousands." Admiral Chen's jaw tightened. She had come too far to watch a peaceful species be slaughtered while she stood by. "All ships, combat. Formation Theta. We're going in, ma'am," Captain Torres said quietly. "The odds are impossible. We can't fight that many ships and win." Admiral Chen turned to face her senior staff, and they saw something in her eyes that reminded them why Earth's colonies had never fallen to pirates or raiders. "Captain, the Drakari have spent centuries conquering civilized species. They've never fought humans before. They're about to learn why that matters." As the human fleet moved toward the inner system, Admiral Chen opened a fleet-wide communication channel. Her voice reached every human ship, every marine, every pilot and engineer who had volunteered for this mission. "This is Admiral Chen, too. All ships. I won't lie to you. We're outnumbered, outgunned, and fighting far from home. The enemy has bigger ships, more firepower, and they've never lost a major battle. By every measure of conventional warfare, we should turn around and run." She paused, looking out at the stars where Earth's children had spread across the galaxy, carrying their homeworld's legacy of survival and determination. "But we're not a conventional species, and this isn't a conventional war. We're the sons and daughters of Earth, a death world that tried to kill us for millions of years and failed. We're the species that survived ice ages, pandemics, world wars, and still reached for the stars. The Drakari think they know what warfare is. They're about to get an education." The human fleet accelerated toward the Drakari formation, 50. Ships moving with the coordinated precision that had made Earth's military legendary among the colonies. But Admiral Chen wasn't planning to fight a conventional battle. Humans had learned long ago that when you couldn't win by the rules, you changed the rules. "All ships, implement protocol Mjolnir," she ordered. "Target priority is not destruction, it's disruption." Lieutenant Jake Morrison, piloting one of the fleet's advanced fighters, felt his heart race as the orders came through. He was one of Earth's youngest combat pilots, but he had trained his entire life for moments like this. As his squadron accelerated toward the massive Drakari formation, he remembered his instructor's words. A human fighter pilot isn't trying to be the biggest predator in the sky. He's trying to be the smartest. The Drakari fleet detected the approaching humans and moved to intercept them with the confidence of an empire that had never been successfully challenged. General Thax Grimjaw, commanding the Drakari invasion, Force from his massive dreadnought, studied the tactical display with amused contempt. So, The prey species found allies. He growled to his bridge crew. 50 ships against 300. These humans are either very brave or very stupid. His tactical officer, a scarred veteran of 100 conquests, adjusted the display. General, these human ships are smaller than our fighters. Their weapons appear to be primitive kinetic projectiles. This will be over quickly. Asterisk, General Grimjoe had conquered 17 worlds for the Drakari Empire. He had faced desperate last stands, alliance fleets, and technological marvels. They all fell the same way, under the weight of overwhelming Drakari firepower. These humans would be no different, but as the fleets closed to combat range, the humans did something unexpected. Instead of forming a battle line to exchange fire with the superior Drakari fleet, they scattered into a dozen different formations, moving in patterns that made no tactical sense. "What are they doing?" demanded General Grimjoe, as human fighters began weaving between his massive ships like insects, too small and fast for his main weapons to track effectively. The answer came in the form of Lieutenant Morrison's fighter squadron, diving toward the Drakari flagship at impossible speeds. Instead of trying to punch through the dreadnought's heavy armor, they targeted something much more vulnerable: the external sensor arrays and communication dishes that kept the Drakari fleet coordinated. "Kinetic rounds away," Morrison called, as his fighters' railguns spat streams of hypervelocity projectiles at the enemy sensors. Each round was just a piece of metal, but accelerated to tremendous speeds. They struck with the force of small bombs. Across the battlefield, human ships implemented the same strategy. Instead of trying to destroy Drakari vessels, they systematically targeted the systems that kept the enemy fleet functioning as a coordinated unit. Communication arrays, sensor clusters, navigation systems, all the technology that the Drakari had always taken for granted suddenly began failing under the precise assault of human weapons. Major Lisa Park, commanding a battalion of Marines aboard the assault transport US Fury, watched the battle unfold on her tactical display. "Classic human tactics," she told her troops. "We can't punch as hard as them, so we're going for their nervous system instead." Her Marines nodded with grim understanding. They were Earth's finest warriors, trained in the harsh environments of humanity's colony worlds. Every one of them had grown up hearing stories of humanity's military history, small forces defeating larger ones through superior tactics, adaptation, and the willingness to fight in ways their enemies never expected. General Grimjoe watched in growing fury as his perfectly coordinated fleet began to fall apart. Ships lost contact with each other, sensor systems failed, and his commanders began making decisions based on incomplete information. What should have been a simple massacre was turning into chaos. "All ships, concentrate fire on the largest human vessels," he ordered. "Crush them with main weapons." But the humans had anticipated this response. As the massive Drakari ships turned their primary weapons toward the human cruisers, Admiral Chen executed the second phase of her plan. "All ships, pattern Samson," she ordered. "Show them what Earth's children learned about fighting impossible odds." The human fleet suddenly changed formation again, with the larger ships moving to draw Drakari fire, while fighters and bombers launched coordinated strikes against the enemy's heavy weapons. But these weren't normal bombing runs. They were precision strikes, designed to disable rather than destroy. Using the Drakari ship's size against them, Dr. Vasquez, monitoring the battle from the Determination's science station, marveled at the tactical display. "Admiral, the Drakari are fighting like they always have. brute force and overwhelming firepower, but they've never faced an enemy that fights like we do. Admiral Chen nodded, watching as human fighters used the debris of disabled Drakari sensors as cover, making themselves nearly impossible to target while continuing their systematic dismantling of the enemy fleet's coordination systems. The Drakari learned to fight by conquering civilized species, she said. Civilized species fight civilized wars, battle lines, honor, predictable tactics. But humans learned to fight on a death world where honor gets you killed, and the only rule is survival. The battle raged for hours, with neither side able to claim decisive victory. The Drakari had overwhelming firepower, but their ships were becoming increasingly isolated and uncoordinated. The humans were outnumbered, but their unconventional tactics were turning the enemy's size and strength into liabilities. But Admiral Chen knew this was only the beginning. The Drakari would adapt, learn from this engagement, and come back stronger. And when they did, humanity would need to be ready with tactics even more unconventional than what they had shown today. As the first engagement finally ended, with both fleets withdrawing to regroup, Admiral Chen opened a communication channel to the planet below, where Zara Veltar waited in her bunker beneath the burning capital. This is Admiral Chen to Ethros. Prime, we've bought you some time, but this war is far from over. The Drakari will be back, and when they return, they'll be ready for what we showed them today. Zara's reply came back immediately, filled with gratitude and hope. Admiral, what you've done today is impossible. No one has ever fought the Drakari fleet and lived to tell about it. Admiral Chen smiled grimly as she looked out at the stars, where Earth's greatest challenges still lay ahead. Ms. Veltar, you're about to learn something about humans that the galaxy has never seen before. We specialize in doing the impossible. The first battle was over, but the war for the system and humanity's place in the galaxy was just beginning.